ETH. You want me to have a look at ETH? I can have a look at ETH. When you have a look at ETH, I've said this before, I keep on repeating myself, it's not a big deal. It's always best to look at ETH BTC. Yeah. I think most people may not realize that, but when you're trading ETH, you should just trade ETH BTC. All right. Good morning, Cactus Cake. Well, welcome. How are you? Good morning. I'm having my tea, so you can join me. Yeah, so for ETH, you should always look at ETH BTC. And I'll quickly summarize ETH BTC. It's good to summarize these things. When you're looking at ETH BTC, when I look at the highest time frame, which is the yearly time frame, okay, and just focus on the candles, there's a pattern forming. I don't know if you can see the pattern, but I'll quickly go over it with you. You've got a nice big long red candle followed by 2 green candles. Then you've got 2 red candles followed by 2 green candles, and you've got 2 red candles followed by potentially 2 green candles, potentially, yeah. At least one. I'm expecting at least one, but you know, potentially 2. If the trend continues, then potentially 2. We have to see what happens. Okay, so there is a yearly time frame pattern forming, so that's something to bear in mind. As long as ETH BTC is bullish, ETH is bullish. So that's why it's good to look at ETH BTC, because you almost don't care about ETH USD. You only really care about ETH BTC. The reason why is because what happens is you get a rotation of capital, and as long as Bitcoin is rising, then that capital flow into ETH will push ETH to the moon, effectively to the moon. Okay, and so I think there's a pattern here that looks like it's potentially continuing. The other thing that I've noted in the past, which I've always mentioned, and I'll just keep on saying it, is that where this candle closed here and opened here and went down, it created a really nice juicy yearly level. Okay, and I usually mark these yearly levels off, and so there's a nice juicy yearly level there. There's also one lower down here, but we never reached it. We never reached that yearly level. And so these are like highest time frame liquidity levels, strong levels. And after the last bull market, we had this expansion. We had this reversal candle. This is a reversal candle. It's a inverse hammer. It closes above this previous year low. Okay, effectively that is an SR flip on the yearly time frame. So that was a bullish reversal candle. It's a hammer into the lows, closing above this previous yearly low, and then the next year you get a little back test and a nice bullish expansion all the way to the end. Okay, so it just cleanly closed right through that yearly level. Okay, the bull market ends, and then we see 2 red candles. What's interesting about these 2 red candles are that this first one is a big take profit, effectively, if you want to consider it like that, even though the profit's going back into Bitcoin, just consider it as a big take profit. So this whole yearly candle was a big take profit. And the second one was the bear's moment to shine, the moment of glory, and they failed. So you had 2 failures on 2 red bearish years to close underneath this yearly level that has been marked with the top of these 2 candles. You see that? See that? Failure, 2 failures. And then as this year opened, so I consider that as bullish. I consider that bullish because the bears have failed. And then as this year opened, the other thing that happened, which is also bullish, is that the price was able to go down and clean these lows. So you had a low here, and then you had a low here from December, and the price was able to go down and just clean up the lows, and it just bounced up. It's kind of what you want to see. You want to see the lows taken and for the price to reverse, and that's what's happened. So this is nice. This is actually what you want to see. And on the yearly level, when you look at the yearly time frame, it looks good. It looks good because you have the candle going down underneath these lows, and its price is trading right back up above that yearly level. So as far as I'm concerned, I don't expect, could happen, nothing, anything could happen in crypto. It's just high probabilities and expectations. Yeah, I don't expect now the price to do this. Yeah, I think it'll be weird. I think it'll be very strange. It could happen. I'm just thinking it'll be very strange because we've already gone down and cleaned up the lows, and the price has gone back up. Okay, if there was some kind of bearish continuation, as soon as you take these lows, you'd expect a dump, or at the very least, you'd expect the price to go down, back test that low for continuation. That's what you're expecting for bearish continuation. If this whole thing was to continue, that's what you would expect. Okay, and it didn't happen, and so therefore, because it didn't happen, now you're thinking, well, because it didn't happen, now I'm thinking bullish. I'm thinking this is a good place to buy ETH. It's a really good place to buy ETH because it looks like we're holding this level, this support level. You can see, and actually in terms of trading, like if you're going to trade this as a trader, you have a very easy trade to trade plan right now. You have a you're just assuming that the low is in now. That's the assumption. You have a really easy trade plan now, probably all the way back up to the high there. And as far as trading is concerned, you could just do some kind of fib extension. If it overextends, you're looking at the 2, 1.618, or the 2. The 2 would take us back up to above the all-time high, which would be perfectly reasonable in the bull market. But you know, you've got conservative targets on the way up. You've got these lower levels, which is still quite good. So it's still quite a good trade on the table. It's like a potentially to this lower level that I've got marked. Or even just these local highs. Even if you were just to have a trade idea just to take out these highs, yeah, you're looking at a 1 to 3 risk to reward ratio with this kind of invalidation. So there's a very reasonable trade to be had right now, and the assumption is that the low is in, this yearly level is holding, and you're not really expecting this. Okay, if the price did somehow do this, then there's an even better trade on the table, and that would be a swing failure, and that would be, I think that would be it. And then you have an even better risk to reward ratio, because you could just trade that swing failure, exactly the same, potentially the same target. You'd have a much better risk to reward ratio on that trade. It'll be like a 1, risk 1, and you could potentially gain about 12. It's a very, very high ROI on a trade like that. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But who knows? No one can predict the future. I don't think it's going to happen. But if it were to happen, you potentially be invalidated on one trade with potentially the ability to take a much better trade lower down with a swing failure. Yeah. And you would be, I would never leave my trade to just be hard invalidated, because we have a really nice line in the sand, which is this juicy yearly level that has been holding a support. Okay. If I was to take a long position on ETH now against BTC, just now, So if I just entered now and just have a really wide invalidation at this pivot low here, I would, if I saw the price kind of starting to drop, I would close it out. I wouldn't wait to be invalidated. As soon as we lost that yearly level again, I would close it out. And then it'd be very easy to get back in, because if the price just came back above, then you could just re-enter. You'd have if it did that, you wouldn't even need to put your invalidation down there. You could have a much smaller invalidation at that local low that's been made, as long as the price comes back above the yearly level again. So these horizontal higher time frame SR lines are so important, and they're so easy to trade if you know what you're looking for. But potentially you've got a trade on the table now, and it's quite a good trade. So I'm quite bullish on ETH, just because I see that this yearly level is holding as support, and because, excuse me, and because we've cleaned up the lows. I like the lows have been cleaned up. I like that. Let me just delete these brush strokes now. So I think ETH BTC is looking bullish. Doesn't mean that the bull run has started on ETH yet. If I bring in my volume levels now, okay, so I've got these volume levels, and without redrawing my fixed range, this is the overall point of control of the whole range. If the price was to come there, that would be a gift, but I doubt it's going to happen. And so right now, what I can see is that the value area high, we're kind of trying to get back into above the value area high. Yeah, this is the value area high of the whole price action from the beginning of this token. And so I'm kind of seeing a little bit of this whole thing is a little bit of a failed auction. It's like you've come into the value area that's bearish, but I'm not seeing crazy acceptance into this value area. I'm actually seeing the price is rejecting from this value area. And for me, a sign of strength, that's the first sign of strength that I'm seeing. The first sign of strength that I'm seeing is the lack of acceptance into the value area. The second sign of strength will be acceptance into this higher range value area. And I've marked it out: upper range value area low, upper range point of control, and upper range value area high. So on two occasions, we've kind of tried to get in, one here and one here. And you can see with this current weekly candle that it's offering a little bit of resistance. So I would like to see the price to get back in again. That will be confirmation sign of strength, second sign of strength. The first one is the rejection from the value area, the overall value area. The second sign of strength will be acceptance into this upper range value area. Okay, that's how it would look like, something like that. And if you compound that with the swing failure of this pivot here and this pivot here, and the fact that on the higher time frame the yearly candle has failed to close underneath this yearly level that I've marked, which is coming from the previous bull market. Is it the previous bull market? Yeah, the previous bull market. I'm seeing a lot of good indications for a reversal here. Okay, the safest entry will be to a reclaim of that upper range value area low. You have a really easy invalidation, and I think people are just going to start aping into ETH. Then you'll be like that, because once you get back in, you don't really expect it for the third time. It'd be highly unlikely for the third time. Rejecting once, twice, and you know how it goes: once, twice, three times a lady. Once, twice, three times, whatever. But I think you'd have a really easy trade really small invalidation, and quite a nice target, like a 1 to 6 potentially, all the way up to the point of control. That will be your first big TP, your first big profit take. And then potentially, who knows, but it could even keep on rallying to the value area high, because you're almost breaking out of something like this. Yeah. And if you do break out of something like this, then your natural target, where did I draw that to? That one will be the golden pocket. Just above the point of control. Just above the point of control. Probably that's probably where you might see the first kind of big resistance. Who knows what it can do after that. But effectively, you're in the range. You're still in the range, and it's always good to buy at the bottom of a range. Always good. So if we get back into the value area low of this upper range, you're at the bottom of the range, and potentially you could trade it all the way up to the top of the range. The breakout that people want for ETH will happen when the price flips the upper range value area high in the future. Who knows when it's going to happen? If it's going to happen, no one knows. If we flip that into support, then you're pushing, and then you're looking for higher prices. Okay, so I think that's really, when it comes to ETH, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing quite good strength, and that's probably why the altcoin market is doing quite well. If you go back to the price against USD, I've got this higher time frame channel that I've marked out. Got some other lines here. Let me just hide them or delete them. Doesn't really matter. I can redraw them. It's not a big deal. It's pretty much following BTC a little bit. We had a breakout. And we're coming into this historic midpoint, this mid channel. It's, you know, channels are very subjective. I like this channel that I've drawn because I see some support here in the midpoint, some resistance and support at the midpoint, and this bottom, it resisted and then it supported. And so I like this, but very subjective. There's probably a million ways to draw channels. And I always do it on the log chart. And you can see we're coming into a little bit of this mid channel now. So we have to see what happens. It's going to require a little bit of strength to, it could potentially take a few weeks for us to get back above. If we get back above, then you could fly. You could fly. And while BTC is at the all-time high, we're still a little distance away from the ETH all-time high. Okay, potentially what you want to happen is, I mean, there's a little bit of volume in this upper pit, and that liquidity probably needs to be cleared. And we're actually coming back into the value area of that. There's going to be a little bit of potentially, if we do get back above this mid channel, something like that, and then we have to see what happens. Does the price reject, clean up the volume gaps, or does the price find support to go up? I mean, that's basically what you're looking at. One of two things: the price either holds, reclaims resistance lines and goes up, or it loses support lines and it just comes right back down. Right, that's kind of the two things you're looking at, and anything in between. I think with ETH, I'm still looking at higher targets of 7.5 or so, maybe $10,000, and the most bullish case at the peak of the bull market, I'm looking at about 14, 15, 16. I mean, who knows? It all depends on Bitcoin, but I mean, I am looking at those higher targets, and I don't really see why it can't happen. I don't have a reason why those higher targets can't be achieved. It's amazing, huh? Like only a few weeks ago, ETH was trading at $2,200, and now we're almost at $4,000. How crazy is that? Unbelievable. If you look at this, back in October, we were at $1,500. Oh my God. Crazy. Look at that. Amazing. All right, so that's basically ETH. It's a good summary, I think. I don't know. Is it a good summary? Let me just do something else as well. There's no point doing a volume pool on the whole range, but I'll do it just for the sake of consistency. I mean, if the price was to come back to 1,600, that would be a gift, I think, because there's a high volume node there, and it's the value area high. It's very unlikely. You've got a slightly higher volume node here, and the rest is relatively speaking low volume. Most of the volume on ETH, as you can see, is being put at about $100, $150. Arguably, actually, most of the volume was put down here at $11. You could argue that most people haven't really taken crazy profits. Maybe they did here. The price just kept on going up. Anyway. Okay, hope that helps. All right, let me go back to my list.